Hey everybody, good afternoon. So excited to see everybody again. Feels like we've been away for a long time. It's really only been about 10 days. I hope you had a wonderful fall break and got a chance to rest and relax and do whatever it is that you do that you find fun. We are glad to be back with you. It is really hard to believe that 25% of your freshman year is over. You're a quarter of the way done. With the whole year. And so, as we kind of get to this point in the year, I just wanted to check in about a few things and make sure we start the last 9 weeks off really strong. Because in some ways we hit the reset button, and then in some ways things from the first 9 weeks continue. And so, just want to make sure we're all on the same page about that. I'll start with some expectations. Just on our general day-to-day stuff, and then we'll talk about some academic things as well that you need to be thinking about for the next 9 weeks. One thing that I found myself having a lot more conversations about the last few days of the first 9 weeks was the cell phone policy. And so just as a reminder, if the phone is in your hand, at that point you have broken the policy, and we don't care if you're checking the time or texting your mom or texting anybody else that you can think of to text, or we don't worry about any of that, and we don't want teachers looking at the content on your phones, and they don't want to look at the content on your phones. And so that's why our policy is written the way it is. If you're touching the phone, you've broken the policy, and so at that point it needs to go into the envelope, and then it gets logged, and we just go through the process for cell phone. First offense, second offense, all that stuff. Remember that if it's your first offense, you will get it back at the end of the day without any further penalty. It just goes to the main office since it's there until 3:30. If it is your second offense, it must spend the night. And then after it has spent one night, a parent can come and pick it up the next day. It won't be released to you the next day. It was released to a parent. After that, it has to spend the night, and then the parent has to meet. We have to have a conference and kind of figure out what's going on. So we've had a lot of people get first offenses lately. Let's make sure we don't turn into second offenses. We don't like for your phones to stay here, and you don't like for them to stay here. So we can avoid that by being very careful about the cell phone policy. Remember, if a teacher has not said to you, yes, this is an appropriate time to use your phone, you need to assume the answer is no. And if it were me and I felt like there was some kind of emergency or some situation where I was really going to have to take a look, I'd ask my teacher. And so then it doesn't become an issue of looks like you're trying to sneak it. I love my phone just as much as anybody. I hate when I can't have it out. So I have to put it totally on silent, because if it buzzes and I can't check it, I worry that, all sorts of terrible things have happened. And I can't focus on anything else going on in my meeting or in a class when that happens. So just be real careful about cell phone policy. Those offenses last the entire year, so we don't start cell phones over in January. If you've already had a first offense, we keep going from there for the rest of the school year. So make sure those are staying put away at the appropriate times. Headphones are kind of the same way when they're dangling around your ear. We just don't go through life that way. So be careful about that. Another thing that got to be a little bit of an issue is several people have used up their 10 bathroom passes for the semester. At this point, obviously, if you have an emergency and you end up leaving the room, we just deal with that as a leaving class without permission, because you've had 10 times that you've been able to go with permission, and there's just no reason to have an emergency once a week. So if you're having emergencies that often, you may have something else going on. We just don't have emergencies once a week. So you should still have bathroom passes remaining. However, several people do not. Those do start over in January. You will get a new card with 10 passes come January for your second semester classes. So use them as you need to, but otherwise you need to be in the classroom during class time. Teachers don't need to be sending you out to be going to the bathroom if you have used up all your passes. And the third thing that has been a little bit of confusion here at the end has been lunch detention. That is required if you sign in late, and that's for any reason, and we understand sometimes those reasons aren't your fault. If parents are running late or little sister's running behind, all that sort of stuff. But hopefully, again, those things aren't happening every day, and if they are, come talk to us. And we'll see if we can chat with parents and figure out what's going on to get you here on time. If you sign in outside the main office and they give you that white piece of paper, that means you are on the lunch detention roster, and you need to attend during your lunch. It ends up working out to be about 20-25 minutes in lunch detention. So not a big deal at all. It's one day, you're done, and then you never hear from us again about it. The problem has been when people miss it, then they have after school detention and you have to find a ride. You have to inconvenience other people to take care of your business that you could have taken care of very easily earlier in the day. And so if you miss lunch detention, it's automatically after school. If you miss the after school, you're assigned, you're headed to RLC. Several of you have kind of reached the point with RLC that that's not an appropriate intervention for you anymore. And so when RLC is not an option, our kind of last option that we have is out-of-school suspension. And so a few people are sort of at that level. So if you get sign in late, it's not the end of the world. Do your lunch detention, and then it goes away. It's no big deal. If you don't do the 25-minute lunch detention, it costs you an hour later, and then sometimes it's going to cost you a 6-hour school day if you continue to not meet the expectation. It's kind of a time for time thing. If you get here on time, you don't have lunch detention. We have well over 100 kids who have never had a lunch detention and probably won't have one all year. So get here when be on time, and don't be playing around the halls at 8:23 and get lunch detention just because you were goofing around. So enough of that kind of stuff. The next thing we'll talk about a little bit is GPA. You're going to be calculating that today in your advisory class. You may have already done that. The most important thing I can tell you, and I wish you could live it first, but you can't. It's just kind of how we have to do it. Your grades are going to become finalized in 9 weeks for the vast majority of your classes. With very little exception, your grades are finalized, set in stone in the next 9 weeks. And those are the grades that you'll apply for scholarships. You'll apply to college. If you are an athlete and you're looking at going through those processes to play for an NCAA school, these are the grades that count. Come December, and they are set in stone. They cannot be changed after that. So make sure you're getting the highest grades you can get. Don't settle for a D on something when you could work a little bit harder and get a C on it. If you start looking at your GPA and you're below a 2.5, your options become very, very limited for what you can do after high school. 2.5 is kind of the bare minimum to be able to go somewhere and do something and get somebody to give you some money for it. And that's everything from college to trade school, and looking at going into the military or some career like that. So make sure you've got that 2.5 is your minimum GPA. You really, really need to have that. If you're not sure how much one grade affects it, calculate your GPA today and then take maybe 2 of your classes, bump them up a letter grade, and see how much it changes your GPA. I think you'll be shocked when you see how quickly you go from a 2.5 to a 2.8, which gets close to a 3.0. Watch for those kinds of things and just decide that for 9 weeks I'm going to buckle down and get this done and make the highest grades that you can make. They become really, really important at this point. And you need to remember, not only are you competing with the guy sitting next to you, you're competing with the student sitting at West this morning. You're competing with the student sitting at Central. You're competing with the kids sitting at Bearden. So it's not just Fulton is a small pond. It's not just what we're doing here. It's you got to think about your peers across the county and across the state. And across the country if you're trying to go to a school like UT. End of semester is a really weird thing in high school. It comes about very quickly. So yes, we have 9 calendar weeks left, but what happens is we get to Thanksgiving and then it seems like the time just flies and all of a sudden we're at winter break. We will start testing schedule right after Thanksgiving, and in high school that means your classes meet on weird days. Some are longer, some are shorter. Teachers at that point are not giving new assignments, new material that you can earn grades on. It's mostly review at that point. And so what students find is they wait until the first week of December and go, oh my gosh, I want to make good grades. I want my GPA this. I want to be able to play this next year. But then there's not enough time to pull that grade back up. Because teachers just aren't giving the work at that point. It's all review. They've taught their main content that they need to teach. So there's no time like the present. Don't wait and get down to the last minute and be one of those people that goes, oh gosh, there's not enough assignments left to pull my grade up. A lot of you all did an amazing job with the hard deadline. We saw a lot of grades come up. I'm going to be crunching some of those numbers and see where our GPAs are sitting here over the next few days. And then finally, last thing I want to let you know about is now that we've gotten to know each other for 9 weeks, one of our tasks here in the office is Ms. Clower and Mr. Neganek will be sort of leading this, but to be looking for a Merlin leadership team. It's a great way to get involved. It's a great thing to have on your resume. And we're looking for a wide variety of kids. So we're looking for honors kids and we're looking for kids in every kind of class that we have. We're looking for all sorts of different levels and people who bring different perspectives to the team. The main thing is that you're a leader, that you have some ideas, you want to contribute something, you see some ways that things could be made better, and you want to bring that to the leadership team. So your teachers will start talking about those. Usually we do around 15 kids. Your teachers will start talking about that in the next week or so. If that's something you're interested in, come advocate for yourself. Let me or Mr. Negendank or Ms. Clower know that that's something you'd like to be considered for. And as we get our nominations together, we'll make sure that we talk through you and see if you would be somebody who would maybe be a good fit on that group. And so we'd really like for you guys to be involved in that. They have a lot of fun. They get to do some neat things. And we've got a big day in the spring that we plan for freshmen, and they'll be kind of your representatives speaking for what freshmen want to do on that day, because it's not about us. So those are some things on the horizon. As always, my door's open. If you need me, come see me. And just be thinking about each choice you make for the next 9 weeks is going to have an influence one way or another on your GPA and on what your options look like in 3 years. My whole goal is that in 3 years, you have all the options open to you. So there's no reason that if you decide in your junior year that you want to go to UT, I want your GPA to be able to let you do that. And if you decide you don't want to go to UT, you want to go to Pellissippi, you want to go do something else, that's fine. But have the GPA that you can do. You can have all your choices open to you. I don't want you to only have 1 or 2 things to pick from. I want you to have everything available to you. Otherwise, I think that's it. I'm 11 minutes in now, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talk. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And if there's anything we can do for you, come see us. Thank you so much.